Hi everyone, welcome back to Novel Nomad and welcome to my life update. So I definitely haven't been on for a little while and I feel like every time it's about to be Victober, I emerge like a chrysalid from my cocoon to come out for Victober. But I thought before I do my Victober video, which is going to be a little bit different this year, I decided to do a bit of a life update on what I've been reading, just to catch up and say hi again. So let's get to what we're all here for, and that is the books. Now, I had to have a little bit of time off this year, not from YouTube, from life, because I had to have a medical procedure. It was kind of necessary after a while. I had been putting it off for a little bit. It wasn't life-threatening, it was just personal. But that meant I had lots of time to read. And what I did read was wonderful, wonderful fantasy books. So let me just get straight into what I read when I was on leave. And let's just start with Becky Chambers' two here, A Psalm for the Wild Built and A Prayer for the Crown Shy. These are so good, so good. So just being very present in the moment and relaxing. No need for escapism, just being very mindful, demure. No, I'm joking. So it's about being very understanding of each other, and it's a very quiet and relaxing read. So these were absolutely fantastic. I definitely recommend if you just want like a quick break from all the big adventure books and it's still a fantasy and it's something that really is like personal. That was wonderful. So another one I read that was, I loved it so much and I cannot wait for the next one. The cover's out for the next one and it's so good. It's a bit of a historical fiction in Regency era. Obviously we're having a look at that right now, but it's a little bit of a thriller, short stories. You definitely see historical figures that were very present, and I know Alison Goodman is very, very honest with the fashion and society, and she knows her Regency. So if you want to have a little bit of a fun Regency jaunt that is a bit serious at times and does have wonderful historical references, definitely check out this one. But the pièce de résistance of my reading when I was bedbound was the Freya Marx series, which is the Unbinding series. Yes, I've got different versions, but these were the ones I could source because I love these books so much. I got the fancy editions. So this is the first book, A Marvelous Light by Freya Marx. So this is basically set in an alternate version of very early 1900s England, and magicians exist. They're not really well known in society. People don't know about them, but the government does. So they have like a government society. They work for the government and country and things like that. But working with English magic, like very much like Jonathan Strange and Mr. Norrell, it's just such an interesting concept, and this is the most perfect introduction book. There's also romance. It's a queer romance as well, so the two male leads. I absolutely love this book. I read this one like instantaneously, and thankfully by the time I picked this one up, the third book had just been released. So I got the second one, which follows on, and it has like what I've described as the most perfect second book experience. It's not a slump from the first book. It's different characters, same world, continuing on the story, very different location. This time we're on not a cruise ship, but we're on like a liner that goes between England and America. And the story is so good. It's a different pace, very different characters, very different expectations. And this was so much fun. Once again, gorgeous edition. I had to get pretty editions because they're gorgeous, and I just did. So next I have the third one, which is Power Unbound. Once again, we've got these lovely black editions. I think these are from Owl Crate or Illumicrate. Illumicrate, I think. But yeah, so this one had just been released, which is very good, because the funniest thing about this one, it kind of brings the first two together, and you kind of have this found family kind of story, and it's so good. And the two main characters in this, they're like considered like the annoying assholes of the whole story plot, and it's like people that you would not expect to have a romantic story, and it's just so satisfying. But yeah, the ending to this like Magic World trilogy is perfect, absolutely perfect. So those ones were probably my favorite reads of the year. I did read them within like a week, all three. Oh, probably not a week. I'd say a week and a half, because I had to wait. But they were so good. I loved them so much. And it was like the perfect balance of escapism and then really solemn thinking, but wonderful at the same time. Very cozy. I had a very cozy reading experience when I was laid up. But let's get on to some of the other books I've read this year and my thoughts on them. So another book that I read and loved, and it's one that I picked up in New Zealand. I'm finally getting around to my New Zealand books that I purchased over there. But this is How to Loiter in a Turf War by Coco Solid. And this was like one of those books where it's just 24 hours in the lives of these characters, but you are so invested. I read this in a day, but I was so invested. The writing is so beautiful. It's so succinct. It's so honest. It really speaks to the characters. They're all ridiculously unique. And it really speaks to, it was, I think, early 90s, which... I think it's 90s, early 2000s, when many of the Maori communities that are living in the cities in certain suburbs are slowly being turfed out by gentrification. And and it's just like there's these lives of having that experience and what it feels like to, not only live in a colonial country, but then to feel that the suburb that you grew up in is now under threat again, and you have to move because you just can't afford to live there anymore. It's great. Moving on to poetry, I've read a little bit of poetry this year, but I want to share you my two favourites. So first off, we have Dress Rehearsals by Madison Godfrey. They are from Perth, Australian writer, and the poetry collection is so fascinating. It's just so sharp and thoughtful and really, really deep, and it's just, I loved it so much. And it's a memoir, so it's understanding their origins, how they came to be, and it's really beautifully constructed. And I did see them at Writers Week, and when they were going through how they came to write the story, or write the poems, I should say, they actually had their parents read it, and they said, I was a bit worried, parents reading some of the entries, but it felt very honest, and that's what I really connected with in this poetry collection. And so too with 36 Ways of Writing a Vietnamese Poem by Nam Le. His poetry is very rhythmic, and it's amazingly beautiful. It's a very different rhythm, and I don't think I would have appreciated as much if I hadn't seen him at Writers Week and he kind of explained the rhythms and styles of a Vietnamese poem. So this was really, really enjoyable. For YA, I haven't read too much YA this year, but I did have to pick up Tobias Madden's Wrong Answers Only, and I finally got around to reading Take a Bow, Noah Mitchell. I loved both of these. He writes such beautiful stories, but I don't know, I really cried in Take a Bow, Noah Mitchell. It was very emotional for some reason, but Wrong Answers Only was really good, and it was a really good multi-generational story, and I really thoroughly enjoyed it. So definitely check these out for great YA reads. Okay, let's talk about romance. And I love KJ Charles. So I definitely picked up the print copy of The Gentle Art of Fortune Hunting. I actually read this when it was a self-published book a couple of years ago, and I loved it. And so this is really fun. KJ Charles is an amazing historical romance writer. Definitely in queer fiction, but the best thing is they really are truly honest to the language of the time, and it's just so much fun to just sink into their world. So I definitely recommend, if you want to get into some queer historical romance, definitely check out KJ Charles. Let's get into a little bit more environmentalism. And first off, I read Islands of Abandonment, Life in Post-Human Landscapes. This was such an interesting book. It's like looking at landscapes where humans have left for various reasons and how nature has rebounded. It's hopeful at the same time as confronting. But I really thoroughly recommend this one. It's such a fascinating book. Also, that cover's amazing. Then my book club read Gathering Moss by Robin Wall Kimmerer. This was amazing. It's such a short read, and it's kind of leading in. I'm going to read Braiding Sweetgrass next, which is what she's really famous for, known for. But Gathering Moss was such a small, intimate fascinating read. It's one of those reads like, oh my God, I did not know this about moss. And it gives you such a detailed history of the intricacies of moss. So yeah, recommend this one if you want to get into some really fascinating nature read. So not quite nature reading, but still saying that's nature based, and that's Ursula K. Le Guin's The Word for World is Forest, and it's kind of like a colonial story, but it was very much have to read it in the context that it was written, and that's written in protest of the Vietnam War, because there are very significant characters who are very stereotypical of how was depicted back then. So yeah, this is a protest book, and it's beautifully written. It's won many awards, and you can see why. So yeah, these were some great environmental reads. I am reading another one right now, but I will give you my opinion on that one as soon as I'm finished reading it. Lastly, I've started, hello, good girl. This is Juno, everyone. Lastly, I've started reading during August, which was Women in Translation Month, and I read Lemon by Kwon Yo-sun. This is really fascinating. It's kind of like the after effects once someone's been murdered or suicide, you know, the unknown death and all the people like surrounding that and the after effects and the effects of that. Secondly, I read Strange Weather in Tokyo, which is a very different read by Hiromi Kamikaze. And this was really great. I love this one because I wasn't a huge fan of Nakano Thrift Shop, but this one was really good. And it was beautiful human interaction and human story. So I definitely recommend this one out of the couple that she's published. But yeah, this one was great. Lastly, I've started reading Things Remembered and Things Forgotten, and by Kyoko Nakajima, and I'm only a few stories in. This is just short stories collection, and it's so beautiful. I recommend it so much. But yeah, I'll report back fully on all the different short stories soon. You'll know. The reason why I'm reading mainly Japanese and Korean books is because I will be traveling to Japan and Korea, so get ready for more travel videos, which I'm very, very excited for, obviously. But I will also be posting my Victober TBR very, very soon, probably at the start of October, to be fair, and I'll see you all next time. Bye!